All right, so now that we have our set current action in place, and when we click edit, it actually calls that and it sets the current value, as we can see right here. So that's put in the current piece of our state, but nothing's happening in our UI. So we basically want to get that data, whatever that contact is, into this form. And there's some other stuff we want to do as well. For instance, we want to change the text on the buttons in the title. I also want a clear button so we can clear out the state. So there's quite a few things we have to do within that component. And this stuff is the beauty of using something like React, is having this reactive user interface. So let's jump into contact form. Now we already have the context, because down here we called the add contact action, which is part of the context. Now I'm going to destructure some stuff from the context. So I'm going to go right here and let's pull out add contact. That way we don't even have to call, contact context right here. And then I'm also going to pull out the current value, which is that part of the state. So let's take that from contact context. Now we want to fill the form based on if there's anything in this current value, and we want this to run as soon as the form is created or mounted. So I'm going to use effect, which is a hook that I'm going to bring in up here. So let's say use effect, and it's basically going to mimic the lifecycle method component did mount. So I'm going to put this right above where we have our component level state, and let's say use effect, and pass in an arrow function. And then we're going to say if, let's say if current is not equal to null, meaning that we click the edit button, we want to set a current value. What I'll do is set the current contact. So if we call set contact, that'll basically fill the form with whatever we want. So I'm going to say set contact, and then what I want to set it to is the current value, which is the object. It's the complete contact of whatever one I click edit for. Okay, so we're going to set the contact, set the form to that current data. Else, then let's just clear it. So I'm just going to copy this right here where we just set it to nothing, to its default state basically. All right, now we'll have an issue if we leave it like this. We have to actually add our dependencies in here, so we have to put some brackets, and we just want to add in here the contact context, because we only want this to happen on certain occasions, if the contact context is changed or the current value is changed. We'll also get a warning if we don't add these. Okay, if we just add empty brackets. So let's save this, and just doing this should fill the form. So let's jump over and let's click edit for Jill Johnson, and you can see all our data gets added in there. If I click edit for Sarah Watson, Harry White, and even the checked works. So he's professional, so you can see the professional gets checked. All right, so we know that that's working. Now there's some other things that I want to change. Let's change the title here and the button, because now when we have some current contact information in here, we're looking to update it, right? Not add a new one. So let's go down to where we have the title, and let's say if current is a thing, or I guess a thing, if current is equal to null, actually we could just say if current, then let's show, should we say not current? No, let's just do that. So if there's current, then let's say edit contact, else let's say add contact. Okay, let's see if that works. So if I click edit, good, changes to edit. Okay. So I also want the button to do the same thing. So I'll actually just copy this and go down to the submit button and where we have our value, let's put in that same thing. So that way that changes as well. So if I click edit, now this says edit. Actually, let's change it to update. Update contact. Okay, now I also want to have a clear button. So I'm going to actually copy. Actually, I'm not going to copy anything. I'm going to go under this div and say if current double ampersand, then let's have a div. And in this div, I'm going to have a button. I'm going to give it a class of BTN, BTN light, and BTN block. Okay, and this is going to say clear. And I'm going to have a an on click here, and I'm going to set it to a function called clear all. All right, so go ahead and save that. Now, what I want to do is call clear current, which is in our actions here, right here, clear current. It's just going to set current back to null and clear. It should clear the form automatically. Now, the reason I'm not calling clear current directly from here, and I'm using this clear all, which I'm going to create above, is because there's some other stuff I'm going to want to do as well when it comes to filtering and stuff like that. So up here, we're going to create our clear all. And we want clear current, which is part of our state, or our context, I should say. So I'm going to bring that in up here. Okay, and then we'll call that here. Good. So let's try that out. We'll save that and go back and click edit, and now you can see we get a clear button, and if I click it, it brings us back to the default state because current is now null. Okay, so we can click edit, clear, good. Now we're going to have a different functionality when we click this button depending on if we're adding new or if we're updating, right? So in our on submit, we have to have some kind of conditional here. So let's say if, and basically if there's nothing in current, so if current is equal to null, then we're going to want to add contact, right? So I'll just move that up. Else, then we're going to want to update, which we don't have that functionality yet. We didn't create that action. So let's actually do that. We'll go to our contact state where we have our update contact comment here. And I'm just going to copy, let's copy set current because it gets passed in a contact, which is what we need. And we'll change this to update contact. It's going to get passed in a contact, and then for the dispatch we're going to call update contact, and the payload will be the contact. So we'll save that. Let's go to our reducer, and this is going to handle how it gets passed down to state. So let's create a case. Let's go right above the delete and add in a case for update. We want to return our original state. Now for the update, we're going to take the contacts array and we want to set it to state.contacts. And there's a few ways you can do this. I'm going to use the map method. So we'll say for each contact, we're going to take, let's say, contact.id. If that's equal to the action.payload.id, okay, because remember the action payload is the entire contact, so we're just matching the IDs. If that's the case, then let's go ahead and return the action.payload, which is the new contact, or I should say the updated contact. Else, then just return the contact as is. Okay, so make sure you save that, and then in our contact state, let's make sure we add this down here. So update contact. And then in our contact form, where we have this blank else is where we need to call the update. Now I'm just going to pull it out of the context. So right here we'll say update contact. Okay, and then let's see where we want to call this is right here. So we'll say update contact, and inside here is let's see, we're just going to add the contact, which is whatever is in the form, right? Because the form is this contact right here. This is the state of the form, and whenever we change an input, these change, and that's what will get submitted to this update. So let's save that, and just to reiterate, once it gets submitted, it's going to get called here, update contact. It's going to get passed in. It's going to dispatch to the reducer the new contact, I should say the updated contact, and then the reducer will catch it. It's going to map through all of the contacts. It's going to look for that ID, the one that the payload has, and if it matches, it's going to send basically the new updated contact and replace the current one. Else, it's just going to return whatever the original contact is. Okay, so it's going to loop through all of them. So let's try it out. Let's go back and let's say edit Jill Johnson, and we'll change her phone number and email. Let's say yahoo.com and update. And now you can see her phone number changed and her email address. Okay, and obviously if I reload, it goes back to normal because it's just hard-coded data, but we have that functionality. And once we start to implement our backend, this stuff is all going to stay the same as far as the component goes. All right, so that's it. Let's move on to the next video.